And if not, I can do the roll call. I have the list, so. I just want to make sure, you know.
Don't forget to put the cat in there.
Yes, they're going to be crossing throughout the morning. Mom was mean and didn't feed them.
Yeah, Laura, I don't think I have a list with me.
Okay, then I'll do it.
Okay.
Great, thank you. All right, we are live. All right.
Editing the privacy settings, 1 second.
Okay.
That way people can actually see it.
Ah, yes.
Important.
Am I blinking in and out on you guys? Because my phone's doing that again.
No, we see.
No.
We
We're actually
see you.
live now and hitting record. That's your
Okay.
leisure, Chairman or President Wentz.
Who is that?
Not me.
That's the mayor.
Oh, there she is. Okay. Okay. Scott, do we have everyone but Brian?
Oh, I don't see Sadiq.
Sadiq is the one we're missing. Okay. Okay. Okay, well, I think we can get the ball started. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this New Year's Eve of 2020 for the special meeting of Upper Darby Township Council, December 31st, 2020 at 8 a.m., bright and early. All right, everyone, let's all stand up for a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence. And the mayor has the fabulous flag in her screen, so. Camera. Okay, great. So I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag.
Of the United States of America.
To the republic for which it stands,
One nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And a moment of silence for everyone who was lost this year. Yeah. Okay. Thank you all for joining us. At this point in time, Councilwoman Billups, can you please give us a roll call?
Yes. Councilor Tunis.
Good morning, Upper Darby.
Councilor Billups is here. Councilor Silva.
Present.
Councilor Blackwell.
Present.
Councilor Gwen.
Present.
Councilor Burke is excused. Councilor Sadiq.
I'm hoping he will hop on, so we'll indicate that he's excused. Maybe he just ran into a snag this morning.
Okay,
So.
Thank you. Councilor Faralia.
Here.
Councilor Barnett.
Are you?
Here.
Councilor Wagner.
Here.
And Councilor President Wentz.
Here.
Everyone is here except for Councilor Burke and Councilor Sadiq, who are excused.
Great, thank you. And then we also have our Finance Director, Gary Marin. We have our CAO, Vince Rangione. We have our solicitors, Sean Kilkenny and Courtney Richardson. We have our municipal clerk, Alexis. I keep messing up her last name. I'm very sorry. I gotta get that back in my memory bank. So, and then Administrative Services, Scott Alberts is helping us on the tech side of the equation and public forum part of the equation as well. Right?
Gary,
So,
That's right.
okay. So I did, Bob, in the beginning. So stop messing my mojo. All right. So thank you, everyone. And we also have our treasurer, David Heyman here. So, all right, great. So up next is rules of decorum. Upper Darby Township Council and residents will maintain professional respect for each other. Council encourages free speech. However, civility is required which would prohibit threats, profanity, scandalous, impertinent, and redundant comment, or any comment the discernible purpose of which is to disrupt or prevent the conduct of the business of the meeting. Okay, Mr. Alberts, can you come on to give us any, if there's any public, we have our public forum at this time. This is public forum that is not pertaining to ordinance number 3089. So if there's any comments that don't pertain specifically to the ordinance, this is the time for them.
We have one email comment. It's about the assessment and increase. So I would say it does pertain to the ordinance, though it does not mention it by name. So I would reserve that for the public hearing.
Yes, I agree. Okay, so we have no one for public hearing, for
That's
public
correct.
forum.
No voicemails, no emails.
Okay, no. Okay, great. So public forum is now closed. Thank you. So next up, we have Finance and Appropriations Committee, co-chairs, Councilors Gwynn and Silva, and members, Councilors Blackwell and Burke. At this point in time, can we get a summary of ordinance 3089?
Thank you.
From-
Council, President Wentz, thank you. This is ordinance 3089, which is the annual budget for the Township of Upper Darby for the year 2021, tax levy and appropriation ordinance. This is an ordinance of the Township of Upper Darby, County of Delaware, and Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, amending the tax rate for the year 2021 with a millage rate of 13.25 and appropriating specific sums estimated to be required for the specific purpose of the municipal government. This action is required by Section 902 of the Home Rule Charter, whereas Council passed Ordinance 3086 fixing the tax rate for year 2021 with a millage of 13.07 on December 16, 2020, whereas an additional calculation of the taxable real property of the township caused council to increase the millage rate to 13.25, and in furtherance of the 2021 budget, council may establish a tax on all real property, improved and unimproved within the township, subject to taxation for the calendar year 2021 on each dollar of assessed valuation. Now therefore be ordained as follows. Section 1, that a tax be the same and the same is hereby levied on all property and occupations within the said township, subject to taxation for the township purposes for the fiscal year 2021 as follows. Tax rate for general purposes, the sum of 12.62 mils on each $1,000 of assessed valuation. For debt purposes, 0.63 mils on each $1,000 of assessed valuation. Section 2 provides for the expenses of the fiscal year, which includes the general fund and the summary of appropriations. The general fund also, super fund, highway aid funds, sinking funds, and the severability clause and a inconsistency clause. So ends the reading. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. So at this point in time, if Mr. Alberts can come back on for, so we can begin the public hearing for ordinance number 3089. Just in case, we did have some earlier agendas that had it at 3989, but the correct number is 3089. Just want to make sure we were clear on that. Okay, take away, Mr. Alberts.
Okay, we have one email from Thomas and Barbara Skravanek, 515 Lombardy Road, Drexel Hill, PA. My assessment has gone from $171,000 to $340,000, and based on the new millage, our tax increases by $1,000. That is a 28% increase. While we understand that the total tax is revenue neutral, for us, retired couple on fixed income, this is quite a jump. As you can imagine, we are not happy about this sudden and unexpected increase. Perhaps something has gone wrong in the assessment process. Can you please explain the process in more detail? All we received was a letter with the new assessment without any details. What is the primary driving force for the valuation? In the state I lived before, the assessment was tied to the square footage of the living space. These days, there is a lot of talk about transparency, but this process has not been at all transparent. Basically, the communication we recall was that we should trust the company that does the assessment.
Thank you. CEO Rangioni?
Yeah, sure. It's an excellent question, and we understand there's a lot of confusion and concern out there. It's important for residents to know and understand that the assessment is the result of a court order, and it's a court mandated county reassessment. So the reassessment was conducted at the direction of the county government by court order. So I really don't want to sort of step out of the way of this one, but in terms of the metrics used, the vendor used, the company, all of those decisions were made at the county level by the county government. So those are excellent questions for the county government, but to a certain extent, the Upper Darby government is also similarly situated to our residents in terms of the information flow. And we understand that the valuations do hit different property owners in different ways. So, very sympathetic and understanding and happy to talk to the county and try to learn more. But just important to know that those decisions were not made by this council or this mayor, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Anyone else want to respond to the resident's comment or question? Okay. Gary, you look like you're paused in a thought.
I was wrestling with whether it was appropriate for me to open my mouth. What I would like to say, sorry, Vince, is that perhaps the best way to respond, not just to the resident who brought this up, but to all residents who are asking the same question, would be to bring on somebody who is an MAI, an appraiser, because this is the practice of standard appraisal science. There are 3 different methods that are used. The 2 that occur to me are comparable sales and replacement costs. And this company went house by house, building by building, and did a street reassessment of each property based on their methodology. The aggregate number was nothing more than adding it all together. And so the real question is why, is this individual's house really worth $340,000 today? Would it sell for that? If it would, then that's the answer to the question. If it wouldn't, then there is a flaw in the methodology that the appraisers used. But as Vince said, it's unfortunate that this individual's house appreciated in value faster than other pieces of property in the township. That's what caused the tax increase.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Seeing no more, there are no more public comments, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So seeing no more public members wanting to participate at this point in time, and close the public hearing for ordinance number 3089. Can we, all right, can we get a motion by council to approve ordinance number 3089? I see Councilman Gwynn. Do I have a second? Councilman Silva? Gwynn. Silva. Are there any questions or concerns on ordinance 3089? Councilman Bonnet, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a few questions because I'm still wrestling with the idea of funding our budget with a millage rate that's more than we technically need, although I do understand the rationale behind that. I just have trouble buying into that, but I do have a few questions about it. Number one, Gary, are we still in a state of limbo? In other words, has the county revised the township-wide assessed value since Christmas Eve, or the day before Christmas?
No, there's not been any change, and at this point, things are sufficiently quiet that I would hope and expect that we will be reducing the millage to 13.13.
All right. Well, at this point, we're proposing to adopt a millage rate of more than 13.13. In fact, 13.25, and that's what is stated in this ordinance 3089. Should we adopt it that way? At this point, we have made a commitment to our taxpayer not to increase taxes. And if we were in fact to adopt this ordinance as written with the 13.25 millage rate, we're effectively increasing taxes. At this point, what I'd like to do is move to amend the motion to adopt this ordinance at a millage rate of 13.13, which in effect is a tax neutral millage rate. It would honor our commitment to the community that we are not going to increase taxes this year. So
Is that an official motion?
that is a motion to amend
Okay.
the motion that's on the table to adopt ordinance 3089 at the tax neutral millage rate of 13.13.
Do you have a second?
Real quick, Courtney just emailed me, texted me, and just want to bring up, I didn't see it brought up, she's been more involved in this than me, some home rule charter provision, just want council to be aware of. Just
So for clarification, thank you so much, Sean. If we do amend, we will have to re-advertise, and we have a requirement by the home rule charter that ensures that we have to have this passed today. If it does not, then we are out of home rule charter compliance. And if we do any amendments, it has to be re-advertised per the home rule charter. Now, Councilor Burnett, you actually make a very valid point. In the event that the amount is not correct, we can do a refund, and we can also do under this is not actually covered by the home rule charter, but the default is the first class township. We can do a resolution in the new year to adjust the millage down, and then that will be fine.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. I'm aware of that provision. We talked this out last week at the meeting, and I had asked for an opinion, and I asked if in fact we could reduce, if in fact the county did not change the township-wide assessment again, could we unilaterally adopt ordinance 3089 at a 13.13 millage rate? And I was advised that we were advised at that point that we could.
you,
Changing that?
no, Councilor Bonnet. Ms. Richardson is correct about the change, advertising changes. But when I have seen this done in other municipalities and seen it, you can always start off and advertise a higher rate and bring it down. And you can bring it down by amending at a meeting. I have seen that. That's a call, though, for council to make at the advice of Mr. Marin and Mr. Rangione, if they think that that's a prudent move. But I think your motion is to amend is legal, if that's where council wants to go.
All right, my motion's on the table. I'd like to ask if there's a second to it.
Second.
Councilman Wagner? Okay. So are there any questions or concerns on amending ordinance number 3089 to 13.13? Councilman Gwynn?
Just want to confirm and restate I believe the things that Mr. Burnett was stating, as well as Sean Kilkenny, that if we in fact discern that the rate is too high, we can adjust it to the lower rate at a point just before the billing goes out.
You could wait and do it later, and I believe that's what we researched. You could do that as well, and could do that by resolution. Yes.
And that can be accomplished anytime between then and now, and still achieve the same effect.
When are we sending
As
out the bills,
discussed at
Gary?
the last meeting.
Gary, when are we sending out the bills?
The bills go to the printer approximately the 15th of January. So we need
Right.
to make the decision by then.
And as I recall, Gary, you said that you were in the process of establishing and confirming the values as Upper Darby has with that of the county.
Correct. I remain in contact with the county over this.
Okay, my follow-up question then to
Point of order. I have my hand up.
Solicitor
Bob Wynn had the
Kilkenny.
floor.
So to Solicitor Kilkenny, is that what is the mechanism that's used?
What? Let's wait. I'm
Point
sorry.
of order. He can't
Wait,
just speak when he wants. We have
You're
to
right.
raise our hand.
You're right. Councilman Tunis, you are correct. This is not, you're not running the meeting, Councilman Barnett. So you're continuing this conversation as if you're running the meeting and you're not. Okay. So Councilman Gwynn had his comments, Councilman Tunis just did a point of order, a valid point of order. And so therefore, and the others have, CEO and Gary have responded to Councilman Gwynn's question. So at this point in time, I need to see if any other council members have a comment or question on this amendment before you continue. So Councilman Tunis, did you have any comments you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just had a question for a little bit more clarity. So it seems that we can do two things. And my question is in reference to Councilman Barnett's motion. So if, let's say this motion passes, we have to re-advertise and do it like at another meeting. Can you just walk me through what that process would be?
No, so if Councilor Barnett's motion passes, then you do not have to re-advertise. That would be the millage rate. You're stuck at that lower millage rate. You have to make sure the administration is comfortable that that is the actual rate that they want to, that they think is appropriate for Upper Darby. If you wanted to pass the ordinance as is and wanted to give the administration or whoever, the county, another 13 days, you could take action, I guess, on your meeting on the 13th and by resolution lower it. Those are your options, Councilor Tunis, if you understand.
Understood.
Okay.
I just wanted to hear from you.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilman Silva?
Yeah, I do. We received a letter on the 23rd of December, which is part of what prompted this meeting today and the previous meeting. And I just, I wish I had the level of faith to think that we'll never receive such a letter again in the next month. I don't, if we set the millage rate in stone based on what we are assuming is the correct assessment amount, then it seems like to me we're leaving a lot of loose ends potentially, and it doesn't seem like it's wise. So, we're not, I don't understand the point of trying to set the motion in place thinking that, well, perhaps nothing else will go wrong, but it seems like a lot of things have up to this point, and I don't see why we should, leave ourselves out at any wiggle room whatsoever, provided it's, potentially still possible that we might need it.
Yes. Councilman, any other council members have any comment? Okay, so Councilwoman Phillips?
Yeah, thank you, Council President. So we wanted to set it at 13.25, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was originally at, based on the first numbers, at 13.7.
0.07.
0.07. And now Councilor Barnett is asking for 13.13.
Yes.
Assuming that the county assessment is going to come back saying, oh, okay, yeah, we were incorrect and we wanted, so the millage is going to be at 13.7 and we can make it at 13.13. I'm just confused by the numbers.
Councilor Billups, what's advertised is 13.25.
Okay.
And as of now, and Mr. Marin or Mr. Rangione can correct me if I'm wrong, the administration's best guess or strong belief is that the millage ultimately, as of all the stats they have now, would be at 0.13. When I was talking to the administration about this several weeks ago and about this meeting and how to adjust the problem from the 13.07 to 13.13, I said, if you're not sure, it's better to advertise a higher number and bring it down, as we talked about what we could do on the 13th, if that's what they wanted to do, or as Mr. Bonnet would like to do today. So right now, and Mr. Marin and Mr. Rangione can correct me if I'm wrong, based on all the information they have from the county, 0.13 is what they think would be a balanced budget, but they're not 100% sure, unless if Mr. Rangione or Mr. Marin, have information or would like to comment.
So advertising at a higher number would keep us safe, so to speak. And
well, yeah,
but it won't. I don't want to say it won't hurt anything, but if the numbers are incorrect, we can come back down to the 13 point whatever that number is.
Yes, and I believe what the administration was saying is, and we're talking about is based on our meeting schedule. This would, if we wanted to go with the 0.25, we could take action on the 13th by resolution, lower it then, or as Mr. Bonnet wants to do is lower it now. I think the administration prefers, and they can comment, not me, I didn't really talk to them about this, that we wait to the 13th just so we go back to the county perhaps one more time and say, you're really certain that this is exactly what it's going to be? Is it not? You better be sure it's not going to change. Nothing to bind them on that. I think it gives them one more opportunity at the apple. Let them pass the New Year's holiday. Obviously, everything's been slow for the last week or 10 days, and things should start getting back to normal on the 5th. So I don't know, Mr. Rangione looks like he wanted to comment on what I said.
Thank you.
Yeah, so everything that Solicitor Kilkenny said is correct, and everything that Councilor Billups said is correct in terms of our ability to adjust down after the fact. And to go back to something that Solicitor Richardson said, it is entirely possible that even if we do this, as we've discussed it many, many, many times now, and provide us the flexibility until the 13th, it's possible that the county will correct the formula after the bills go out, and that there'll have to be refundings and interim bills and things of that nature. So what the administration is asking for, and what we've discussed previously, and what the solicitors have recommended, et cetera, is providing us the maximum amount of flexibility for the maximum amount of time so that we can get the millage rate as correct as possible for the taxpayers of Upper Darby and ensure that it's revenue neutral. It is remarkably cynical and craven, even for this body, to suggest that this ordinance represents a tax increase. It absolutely does not represent a tax increase for the residents. That is not the purpose of this ordinance. And I would strongly recommend that the council move forward with the recommendation as discussed at previous meetings and recommended by the solicitors and the finance director.
Thank you. So I see Councilwoman Blackwell, and then and on a repeat level, I see Councilman Bonnet, Gwynn, and Tunis. But before we move forward, I'm going to let Councilwoman Blackwell speak, and then I'm going to ask Gary, can you prepare your screen from last week, because there is to tag on to what just to clarify the numbers, because as I remember, or I'll just Councilwoman Blackwell, go ahead.
Okay, so based on my understanding, I believe that at this point we should table the motion and then call the question.
So if you want to do that, make a motion to table.
No, we can.
But I'll make a motion to table it.
No. You mean to table the amendment?
Yeah.
Table the amendment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, table the amendment.
Okay, we want to make sure I'm clear on what you're trying to say.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I
So
second it?
to table the amendment.
Yes.
Make sure we're talking the same thing. Okay. Yes, you can make a motion to table the amendment. So table, just want to make sure I'm writing it down correctly. Amendment. Moved by Blackwell. And second by Tunis. Okay, any questions or concerns on tabling the amendment? So just keep in mind, all your comments specific to the amendment are on hold, and your comments are specific to tabling the amendment. Okay? Okay, so I see Councilman Gwynn and I see Councilman Wagner. So go ahead, Councilman Gwynn.
This is just to confirm this tabling, the amendment means tabling Don Bennett's proposed amendment.
Correct.
That's all the point I wanted to make sure.
Correct.
Thank you.
And Councilman Wagner?
I don't think we should table this motion for an amendment. If anything is clear here, this entire body is not clear on what's happening at the county level and what's happening with our millage rate. In fact, Mr. Rongione himself, I wrote this down, said there's a lot of confusion and concern out there. So we're now going to respond to that by cutting off discussion of it, which is all that this tabling maneuver would do. I think discussion should continue until we can get this to as clear a point as possible. And I've got to say this too. You know, I know everybody's trying to do their jobs here. Just a minute or two ago on this process, our CAO said that it's, I wrote this down too, craven and cynical to refer to this as a tax increase. Vince, that's just not helpful. And you as a paid employee of the township should not be referring to the comments of council members in that way. We're supposed to be here to be discussing these items. And everyone has to agree that we have a lot of uncertainty about what's occurring here. You've said, Gary has said—
Point of order, is this in reference to the tabling? I'm just confused.
Don't interrupt me.
Okay. I'm confused. Are we talking about the tabling or are you talking about your personal grievance with the CAO? Pick one.
Okay, stop. Point of order has been called. Clarification, Councilman Wagner. The conversation is specific to the tabling action and not any comments that led up. It's just the action of tabling.
I'm talking about tabling it, and I am against that. And
okay.
I think it is important for us to continue this discussion and to continue understanding what everyone thinks about this.
Okay.
And it is discouraging of that very process to be using snide and sarcastic remarks about the things that people have to say.
I was being very sincere.
Well, you sure weren't being very nice about it.
So, well,
it wasn't sarcasm. I want to be very clear about that.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. Anyway, I think we should not table this. I think we should continue this discussion on a subject that has been described by our own CAO as generating a lot of confusion and concern. And our finance director has told us that we fully expect to reduce the millage rate to 13.13. Well, if that's the case, that's then our best estimate of what the millage rate should be.
So we're talking about tabling, on tabling. So you don't agree with tabling. Anyone else have any comments or concerns about tabling the amendment of 13.13? Councilman Silva, go ahead.
I'd like to call the question about tabling the amendment to 13/13.
Do I need to approve a motion to call the question to then?
I think you need a second.
So, okay, so we have a third and then call the question. Can I get a second on calling the question?
Second.
Second.
Already is, yeah.
Okay, so Silva and then Sadiq. So just to verify, we're gonna do a quick vote to call the question before we actually vote on the tabling the amendment. Is that correct? Want to make sure I'm on the same page?
Yes.
Okay, so as to call the question, Councilwoman Phillips, so we have, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Councilor Tunis,
Yes, I'd like to call the question.
Councilor Billups is a yes. Councilor Silva,
Yes.
Councilor Blackwell,
Yes.
Councilor Gwynn,
Yes.
Councilor Burke is excused.
Yep.
Yeah. Councilor Sadiq,
Yes.
Councilor Faralia,
No.
Councilor Barnett,
No.
Councilor Wagner,
No.
and Council President Wentz.
Yes. Okay, so we've called the question, has passed. We're moving on to the motion to table the amendment of 13.13. Can we get a roll call?
Yes. Councilor Tunis,
Yes, to table in it.
Councilor Billups is a yes. Councilor Silva,
Yes.
Councilor Blackwell,
Yes.
Councilor Gwynn,
Confirming this is to table?
Correct.
Yes. Table the amendment.
Yes. Don Bennett's amendment.
Correct. It's the only amendment on the floor.
Yeah.
Burke is excused.
Yeah, Burke is excused. Councilor Sadiq,
Yes.
Councilor Faralia,
No.
Councilor Barnett,
No.
Councilor Wagner,
No.
and Council President Wentz.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So the amendment is tabled. So we're going back to the original ordinance of 3089 to continue discussion on the 3.25. I just want to clarify some things that were said earlier. As CAO Rangione had stated clearly, and our finance director has stated clearly, the way they did the math, if there was further notices from the county that, changed the numbers yet again, even at 13.25, there is no tax increase. They broke down the math so that it is the same, what is collected is the same amount that was collected in 2020. The numbers are the same. So just to clarify, when we were at 13.07, it was less than what was collected in 2020. For at 13.13 and 13.25, the numbers are the same as what was collected in 2020. Thusly, the Upper Darby Township's proposal of 13.25 is not a tax increase. The only way you have a tax increase is if your county assessment of your property went up. That is how there's a tax increase. It's not from what's coming from the township, it's from your tax assessment. And I want to make that clear because there has been multiple council members that have claimed that at 13.25, and looking back to 2015, the millage rate has never been at 13 point anything in the past. It's been 19.89, it's been 20.36, it's been 21.38. But it has never been anything in the 13s in the last 5 years. So just to be clear, at 13.25, there is no tax increase from the Township of Upper Darby. The only way you have a tax increase is that your property was reassessed by the county at a higher level than it was previously. That's the clarification. There is no tax increase coming from the township. We're collecting the same amount of money that had been collected in 2020 at 13.25. So I just want to make that perfectly clear because there's been some bad information being handed out. And I just wanted to make sure we were very clear on what we're talking about and what, by passing this ordinance, that is what we're giving our township the opportunity to do. Their ultimate goal is to not have it at 13.25. And if the numbers come back, if no more numbers come in by January 13th, we will probably have a resolution to reduce it, or we won't. But I do trust our administration and our mayor and our finance director, Gary, who has provided us with far more information than I've ever seen on council. This is my time to speak. So do not interrupt me. You are out of order. You are out of order.
I don't experience getting interrupted here, Everett.
Out of order. Thank you. So I trust them to make the right decision. I appreciate Gary and all the information he's given us and our treasurer has given us throughout this past year. And I just want to clarify that I trust them to do the right thing. So I just want to put that out there. Okay, so we're resuming conversation on 13. Oh, sorry, got my numbers mixed up. Ordinance number 3089. And I see Councilman Bonnet. Go ahead, Councilman Bonnet.
Thank you, Madam President. I've got to take issue with the fact that you just stated and CAO Rongioni stated earlier that this is not a tax increase at 13.25. This is not that complicated. We have a stated assessed township-wide assessed value that was established on the 23rd of December by the County of Delaware, or that we were notified on the 23rd of December. We have a copy of that letter. It was distributed to us. That set the township-wide assessment, and Gary Marin computed that to fund the township budget, we need 13.13 mils. Now, if that's what we needed to fund the budget, where that would have been revenue neutral, then doesn't it make a great deal of sense that if you want to increase that to 13.25, you're going to actually raise more money than you need to fund the budget? Plain and simple. It is a tax increase. That's all I have to say.
At this point in time, Gary, could you, I mean, you're the, or CAO, I'm sorry. Did you?
Do you have a question for the administration, Council President?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, I was looking at the numbers that Gary had given us last week.
Gary created those numbers at the instruction of the mayor and under the direction of the Chief Administrative Officer's office. So
right.
If you have a question about them, please feel free to direct it to the administration and it will be answered.
Thank you. So the numbers are clear on what he showed last week.
Yes, and the discussion has also been very clear, and the county has also been very clear that the state of the assessment is still fluid, and the goal of the ordinance is to create flexibility. The goal of the ordinance is to ensure that when the bills are sent out, the thing is revenue neutral. If we do what's being suggested, we have less of a guarantee that we will be able to send the bills out in a revenue neutral, timely manner. And that also is very simple. And I understand that not everybody on the council trusts the motives of the administration, and that's fine. You're perfectly entitled to that. But it is, again, disingenuous and false to suggest that the purpose of this ordinance is a tax increase. It's just simply not accurate. And that's okay. We all have to learn to work together and build trust, and the administration is committed to doing that. So I think you'll see that when the bills go out, at that time, they will be sent out in a revenue neutral way as is required by law.
Thank you. Councilwoman Phillips?
All right, yes, thank you. I just want to call the question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a second to call the question?
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Yeah, so Phillips and Tunis. Can we do a roll call of calling the question?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Councilor Tunis,
Yes, I'd like to call the question.
Councilor Billups is a yes. Councilor Silva,
Yes, I'd like to call the question.
Councilor Blackwell,
Yes.
Councilor Gwynn,
Yes.
Councilor Burke is excused. Councilor Sadiq.
Yes, call question.
Thank you. Councilor Faraya,
No.
Councilor Barnett,
We're just going around in circles. Yes.
Councilor Wagner,
No, we should keep discussing this.
Councilor President Wentz.
Yes, call the question. Hard to see under my cat's feet. He's trying to help. Okay, great. So we're calling the question. So we're going back to ordinance number 3089. Can you please give us a roll call vote on the approval of 3089?
Yes. Councilor Tunis,
Yes.
Councilor Billups is a yes. Councilor Silva,
Yes.
Councilor Blackwell,
Yes.
Councilor Gwynn,
Yes.
No.
Councilor Burke is excused. Councilor Sadiq,
Yep.
Councilor Faraya,
No.
Councilor Barnett,
No.
Councilor Wagner,
No.
and Council President Wentz.
Yes. Great. Thank you all very much. Ordinance number 3089 has passed at a millage rate of 3.2 or 13.25. Can we get one more motion? A
Can I
motion
make a motion
to
to adjourn?
adjourn?
Second. Second.
All right, so we have Tunis and Sadiq. Okay, great. All those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say your name. Ayes have it. Thank you all very much. Happy New Year. Have a great year. We will have a great evening, and next couple of weeks, we will see you on January 13th.
Happy New Year.
Happy
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year to everyone.
Everybody.
Have a great holiday, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy
Have a safe day. Yeah.